Okay, so what we've done already is we've been multiplying binomials together, right? We've been doing distributive property. Now what we're going to do in this lesson, is we're going to undo what we were doing. So instead of multiplying it through, we're going to be looking at, kind of dividing it. What we're going to be looking at is what is the greatest common factor that exists between all of the terms that are listed there. So now, first of all, how are you going to define a term? Anything separated by a plus or a minus. So how many terms does this question have here? 2. Okay, so we've got 3g, and then we have 6 plus 6. Now, what we want to see is if there is a common factor among all of those terms. So, do we remember what factor means? Like a number that goes into, right? Is there a number that goes into each one of those terms perfectly? 3? So if I were to go 3g divided by 3, what would I be left with? G. And if I were to go 6 divided by 3, what would I get? 2. Okay, so what we want to do when we do a common factor is we want to write out the GCF that we're factoring out. And then we're going to write in the bracket following what is left. So if I go 3g divided by 3, what's left from here? G. And then I'm going to do the same thing to the plus 6. So what's plus 6 divided by 3? Plus 2. Okay, so now this is factored for us here.
Uh-oh, here comes Math Shark.
Uh-oh, I'm recording, you know. That was a little, that's just going to make the video more funny. Okay. Well, maybe not, whatever. Okay, so what I want to make sure of, is there anything else that's left that are in common here? No. Okay, so you always want to make sure you check that. And now another thing we could do is we could just quickly multiply it back through and make sure we end up at our question. So does that happen? Yeah? Okay. All right, so then this is your fully factored for this binomial. So it's 3 with the bracket out in front, and then g plus 2 close bracket. Okay, so let's look at this one here. What's my GCF for this one? 4. They both have a 4 that's going to divide out perfectly, right? And now look at your letters. I have a d here and a d squared. So what's the highest power that I can divide out of everything? D, just a d. Okay? It actually turns out to be the lowest power of any variable that's there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to write out what's left in the bracket after I've divided a 4d out of this term and this term. So if I divide a 4d out of here, what do I end up with? 2. And then the d gets divided out, right? So I don't have any more d's left here. And then plus, because there's a plus here. And then what's 12d squared divided by 4d? 3d. Now you just want to double check, look here, is there anything else left in common? No, there's no common factors anymore. And also another check is just quickly go 4d times 2, what do you get? 8d. 4D times 3D is? Okay, yeah, 12D squared. All right, so now this is our factored form of that. So we're looking for common factors. We're looking to see what's common amongst all the terms and dividing it out. We want to write it out in front of the bracket, and then in the bracket write what's left. Okay, any questions? Okay, all right. So let's have a look at this. Let's do the same thing with this. Let's factor this trinomial. So why is this one called a trinomial now? Because there's 3 terms. Okay. And what is the GCF for all of these 3 terms? Just a 6? Yeah? GCF stands for greatest common factor. So the 6 is all by itself. There's nothing else that's common because there's no Z here. There's a Z here and here, but it's not common amongst all 3. It has to be common amongst all 3. Okay, so then for our answer, we write our GCF, and then we open a bracket, and then we divide each one of these terms, and we write what's left. So what's left now? What's 6 divided by 6? 1. What is negative 12Z divided by 6? And then what is plus 18Z squared divided by 6? Plus 3Z squared. All right, now we're going to look at what's in the bracket. Is there anything else left in common? No? 1 is the only thing that's in common, right? And we're not going to factor that out because that's just being silly. Okay? All right. So now our factored form is 6 and then 1 minus 2Z plus 3Z squared. Okay. How can we check to see if we have the correct answer and make sure we've done things properly? We can times it back again. Yeah, so 6 times 1 is 6. 6 times negative 2Z is negative 12Z. And 6 times 3Z squared is 18Z squared. So that works? So the trinomial is the same as the original trinomial, so the factors are correct. Good. All right. And now let's try this last one here. So there's more letters here. And these numbers, what do we notice? There's a negative right here. So if the leading term is negative, we want to factor out the negative. Okay? So what would my GCF be in this case? Negative 5. And then C, my lowest power of the variable is 1, so it's C, and then the lowest power is 1 for the D. So that's my GCF. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to divide it with each one of these terms. So I want to write out what my GCF is. I have to write that out first, and then I open my bracket, and as I divide through, that's what I'm going to write in. So what's negative 5CD divided, sorry, I said it the wrong way. What's negative 20C to the power of 4D divided by negative 5CD? 4C cubed. All right. And now how about negative 30C cubed D squared divided by negative 5CD? Positive. Okay, we want to make sure we have that positive. 6C squared D. So how, how are we dealing, sorry, I shouldn't have closed that bracket. How are we dealing with the exponents on the variables? What are we doing to them? Yeah, we're subtracting 1 off because of that shortcut that we learned about with exponent rules, right? Okay, and now what's my last term? So I've got this negative 25 CD divided by negative 5 CD. Plus 5. That's it. Okay, so now we have to make sure we close the bracket over here. And if I were to look at this bracket, is there anything else left in common among all three of them? Nope. And if I were to take this negative 5 CD and multiply it here, what do I end up with? Negative 20 C to the power 4D. And then this will be negative 30, so it matches that, right? And then if I multiply this by this, it will match that. Okay, that's it. Not too bad, right? So we're undoing the multiplying, kind of working backwards. It's like multiplying Jeopardy style, which is your, okay? All right, cool. So here are the questions for you, and we have quite a bit of time, so have at it, folks.